Good afternoon, Dr. Babatunde. Thank you for joining us on today's interview, Entrepreneur Spotlight. My name is Cynthia Odulaja, and I am the social media manager at CRISA Africa. CRISA Africa is a non-governmental organization dedicated to empower Nigerians youth through housing, entrepreneur, healthcare, and like couple of questions to ask you on today's interview. So I'd like to know if I can proceed.
Yeah, you can proceed.
Our first question will be, who is Dr. Babatunde?
You can call me a lawyer and entrepreneur. I've been a lawyer, been qualified to be a lawyer, and in Nigeria for about 15 years now. I qualified in 2009. I'm also qualified to practice law in two other jurisdictions. I'm qualified to practice as a solicitor in the UK, and then qualified to practice as a lawyer in Ontario in Canada. So that's my professional background. My personal background, I guess, linked to that professional background is I am also an entrepreneur. I am one of the founders of a startup called RegFile. RegFile is an AML and fraud prevention startup, and that is focused on helping financial institutions in Nigeria meet up with their regulatory and compliance obligations.
Our next question will be, as a strategic entrepreneur, what do you think the Nigerian landscape was lacking when you set up Law Party and Workfield?
Um, Law Party really was when I started Law Party in 2015. That was really a passion project. I didn't really do any market research. I didn't really see, okay, how can I make a business out of a gap I'd noticed in the industry. I just liked I loved the law, and I wanted to share the knowledge with as many people as possible. The I set up a platform that provided the ability to be able to do that at scale. So I mean, so with that one, wasn't more. There wasn't a lot of thought that went into it. However, the experience, because non-law party is 10 years. It started 10 years. Well, it's 10 years next year. Um, the experience has taught me a lot of things. It taught me a lot of things around how to make sure that your product or your service actually solves the need for the people, the end users. Also taught me a lot about how to ensure that as you provide that service, you are doing it in a sustainable way. And so I took a lot of those learnings into my career. And so when the opportunity to start Vecfile came, I was much more focused on how can I make sure that number one, the service that we're creating is providing value, but also number two, that there is a need in the market, and the need exists. We had identified that the solution, that the need existed within financial institutions. This is with RegFile, that it existed with financial institutions. And then more importantly, we had also seen that there wasn't a current solution that was able to solve the problem that existed there. So that's why we created RegFile, and then so far so good. We're seeing the fruits of that. It's still early days, but we're seeing that we're getting good traction from our.
As a son of a renowned academic, you have carved out an impressive path for yourself. What values or lessons from your upbringing continue to resonate in your professional
I
journey?
think it's more of him as a person. I see him and both my parents, him and my mom. They have strong values around integrity, around hard work, that I think a lot of families in my generation try to instill in their children. So whether your father or your mother is a doctor, a lawyer, a professor, a teacher, I think those values resonate, and at least in my age group, in my friend group, we all have similar values that our parents try to instill in us. Yes, there is that saying that they always said, remember which family you came from, because
You're
also
coming from.
because ultimately, yes, exactly, because ultimately I was always aware of that whatever I did was a reflection on not just myself but also my family. So
Wow.
so yeah, so I think the I guess values or lessons that kind of resonate in my professional journey is integrity, is hard work, but it's also empathy. There are people. I was blessed that I was born into what you can at the time call a middle class family. Um, um, Not everybody. I mean, some people were born into extremely wealthy families. Some people were also born into families that lived in poverty, and so I think nobody chooses how they're born or where they're born, and so you should always be empathetic to other people's situations and not always think that you have done better because you've worked harder, you've done something different. For some people it's just the luck of the draw. They were just born into a different family, into a different society. So yeah, those are a couple of things that have resonated with me. Integrity, hard work, and empathy.
So moving on to the next question. For those aspiring to become entrepreneurs who face obstacles, what insights or advice would you offer them to like navigate those challenges?
Okay. I mean, the first thing I would say is know why you're doing what you're doing. There's a book by a guy called, I think it's Simon Sinek. It's called Start with the Why. And that is really that at the core of everything that you're doing, you need to be able to articulate to yourself that this is why I'm doing it. And that why must resonate with you and must be true to you. um, if I started to do something business because I saw, oh, everybody else is doing it, and so let me quickly go and get into it, then that's not a good why, because in any business, in any endeavor, in any undertaking that you're going to do, and it's not just businesses, it's like going into a profession, it's like going to do something in university or whatever. There will always be difficult times. And in difficult times, what you have to do is then go back to your why. And it is your why that gives you the strength, that it gives you the motivation to finish and follow through on your mission. And if your why was because somebody said that is a good idea, then that's a very shaky why. I remember there was a time when a lot of people were going into different businesses. This is, I don't know, 20 years ago. People were going, I guess people are actually doing it now, but a lot of people were trying to get into fish farming. And it's like, I had friends that wanted to go into fish farm. I was like, "What? Do you know anything about fishes? No. Oh, do you want to have a fish farm? No, but there's money in it. Oh, well, that's the reason why you're doing it. Okay, fine, fair enough." So a lot of people went into it. A lot of people went out of it very quickly. And that's just because it wasn't as easy as it was kind of played up to be. So, it happened with that. It happened with different things like forex trading at one point. So there'll always be cycles where people are doing things just because other people are doing it. So I guess to your question, what advice would I give to them? Number one, never follow the crowd. Always like be driven by your own passions, by your own goals. And I guess before you can be driven by your own passion and your own goals, you have to understand what they are. You have to be able to do some introspection to know what drives you and motivates you, and let that be your north star. So yeah, never know who you are, know what you want, and then don't be driven by other people's goals. And I guess the third thing, which is linked to that, sorry, just the third thing linked to that, is that you have to be persistent and you have to be able to stay the course. Um, there will always be challenges. You don't kind of run away when the first challenge comes. You don't run away when the second one comes. You don't run away when the third one comes. There has to be a level of staying power that you have to do to be successful. So, yeah, that's the third thing I would say that they should be thinking about.
Moving on to the next question. In your experience, what key resources has been the most crucial for the success of your venture? Like, how did you like cultivate it moving on along the way?
In my experience, key. I mean, so the journey is you can't do it alone. Yeah, you can't do it alone. And so one of the most crucial resources I've had at my disposal is just having a very deep network of mentors, advisors, and peers that I can always go to for advice, for suggestions, for just support. So you have to build a network around you. You can't do it on your own. So that is the most crucial resource that I've had. My tribe.
Thank you. Can I move on to the next question?
Yes, please. Yes, you may. Yeah.
Okay, so we are focused at on achieving increased access to education, entrepreneurial support, healthcare, and housing for Nigerian youth. So, do you think having access to this increased your career momentum?
So this is education,
Yeah,
healthcare,
and
and
healthcare.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if I didn't have access to healthcare, I probably wouldn't be here. That goes without saying. I mean, education. Yes, yes. I mean, I'm privileged to be able to have come from a family that values education. So, I guess from the perspective of education, I think a PhD is technically the highest level of education that you can achieve. And I was supported all through from emotionally by my family to achieve that. And so, um, I don't believe that you can only be successful through education. But as a there's a base level of education that I think everybody should have access to, so that they can have a fighting chance. There are people that um, without education creates opportunities. Education creates career paths. So if I didn't have the education that I had, I wouldn't be a lawyer. I wouldn't be able to have thought about the different solutions I have. And so yes, it's been crucial. It's been crucial to me on a personal level, and it has increased my ability and my career. What I will say is that there is formal education, but there is also the education that you expose yourself to. Um, the world has gone beyond going the four walls of an institution. You have to take on the responsibility of educating yourself. There's so much knowledge that is out there that's available to you on in the world right now, and so you have the obligation um, to to educate yourself. But before you can educate yourself, the system, the society has to get you to that like kind of base layer where then you can then start to build on top of.
Moving on to the next question here. If you didn't have access to these opportunities on your path to success, do you think your career would have taken a different turn?
I mean, it's one of those things you never know. But do I think? No. I don't think that I would have. I don't. The life that I'm living now and the where I am now, if I didn't have access to those opportunities, I wouldn't be able to, because what I'm doing is extremely technical. It's extremely there's a lot of uh, qualifications and stuff that go around it, and so I would, if I didn't have access to that, I wouldn't be where I am now in that context. So yeah,
What do you think the role of nonprofits are in enhancing access to these resources?
the resources being
Education,
education and okay.
housing.
So yeah, I believe that nonprofits they play a crucial role. Um, I think there's, in my mind, they fill the gap where government isn't able to do it, or where private initiatives um, and companies might not be able to, or they fall short. Um, Non-profits can't do it on their own. Governments can't do it on their own. Private companies can't do it on their own. I think it's a web where everybody has to support it and be kind of picking up the slack. So I think the non-profits have a crucial role. They can provide access to education, mentorship, a number of different things that they have, especially in the underserved communities. So these are places where they would not normally have access to this, and there's no incentive from a private perspective to be able to go there, but also no incentive from a government perspective, because there's not that many people there, and government likes to concentrate its efforts on the areas where it can make the maximum impact. So yeah, I think they play crucial roles. They play a crucial role.
Moving on to the next question. Do you think the private sector and others who can should support this initiative?
Yeah, I think. They should be deeply. I think private sector should be deeply involved. The non-profits who come up with these initiatives, they kind of then become the experts, and they have they've set up the processes, they have the infrastructure in place to be able to continue to help these the people who need. Private companies, they have different motivations. They're about making money, making profit, and so I mean, the easiest way that they can participate is to kind of channel some of those resources to support the nonprofit. So I think, yeah, they should, but not only with just like the resources, financial resources, they have a lot of expertise. They have, so they can support like providing mentorship. They can provide by providing internship opportunities. So I mean, it's a win-win because a lot of these guys have corporate social responsibility goals, and a lot of it aligns with those goals. So yeah, they should be supporting, and they can support in multiple ways, just beyond just giving money and financial resources.
Next question. So, for those aspiring to become entrepreneurs who face obstacles, what insights or advice would you offer to help them navigate those challenges?
The most important thing is that they must be able to kind of know themselves, um, kind of know what they're doing, know what they want, what they're good at, know their why. Um, and then also then they have to um, have that network around them, and then more importantly, because the network that they've cultivated, the right mentors, the right partners, and all of that. But also they need to be open to learning. I think you never stop learning. You're always going to be, this life is all about learning, and so you have to be open to that. Don't think that get too big to be like, able to be taught. But also like never despise the days of small beginnings. Don't think it's too small. Whatever it is, just start. Whatever it is, just start. Like just start. If you're just in your own corner doing it, it'll get bigger, it'll get better. People will start to notice you. So just start now. Starting now is always better than just thinking about starting. Just start.
Moving on to the next question. What would you like to tell African youths who are in the process of reaching for their aspirations? Young youths.
Um, I would say, three things. Number one, believe in yourself. Um, Nobody else is going to believe in you. You have to be the first believer. Maybe your parents, your mom especially, might believe in you, but they have to. They're hardwired to believe in you. But you need to believe in yourself, because a lot of success is going to be driven by your own drive and your own confidence. So yeah, number one, believe in yourself. Number two, that I would say is stay curious. Um, I mean, there's so many things that are happening in this world, this day and age. There's AI is going on, crypto is going on, virtual reality is going on. There's so many new things that are coming on that no one has an advantage, and so you need to stay curious. You need to be able to kind of keep learning. And then the third and final thing I would say is just um recognize that success is not doesn't happen overnight. That is, I think, if anything, that's the most important, because you see a lot of youth right around the yardstick that they have for success, because social media has blown everything up so much that you can see somebody that is successful from the US, another person from South Africa, and then you just say, oh, I want to live that life, I want to be there, and you think that it happens overnight. It doesn't. And so you need to be able to recognize that you have to put in the work, and the work takes time. You have to see, it's like you're planting. You don't plant today and then go and harvest tomorrow. You have to plant, and then you wait for a period of time before you can harvest. So I think those are the three things I would say that they need to that the African youth need to kind of imbibe. Believe in yourself, stay curious, but also understand that it takes time. Sometimes it takes time.
Gradual process.
Yeah.
So, is there any advice you would like to give to Nigerian youth, or is there anything you would like us to know that we've not touched on?
I mean, I guess the from from my perspective, I think there is so much information, and I think I mentioned it, like staying curious, and there's just so much information. Like sometimes I even become overwhelmed with the with how much information is out there, whether it's in articles, whether it's in blogs, whether it's in podcasts, whether it's in vlogs, whether it's in books, whether it's in courses. Like there's so much information going out there that you don't have an excuse to say I don't know, or I don't know how to. There's no
Well,
excuse for that. There's free stuff, there's paid for stuff, is all out there. But linked to that is when you have too much information, you can have information paralysis, where someone is just there one place, just I'm working, I'm coming up with a plan. You gotta just start. You have to start, and then you learn on the way. So that is the advice I would give to anyone. Make sure that you take advantage of what is going on in the information space. There's so much information out there, but make sure that you don't let it paralyze you, where you kind of just become a planner and not a doer. You need to execute. Only doers win, and so you need to start winning.
thank you so much for your words of knowledge. We've come to the end of today's interview section. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you for joining us today's section.
You're welcome, Cynthia. Thank you so much. And then if you need anything else, please let me know. Otherwise, thanks for your time, and wish you guys all the best.